Hey folks, how's it going? This is Iron Seagull here, back with another Sims Info and Thoughts video. So this one is going to be all about eco lifestyle. I know there is some stuff about nifty knitting, but I'm going to cover that in a separate video because holy moly, there's a lot to go through in this one. Because there was a live stream today, and just the trailers, they did not do this pack justice at all. This pack looks way better than I initially thought. So starting with the beginning of the stream, SimGuru George showed us Port Promise, which is one of 3 districts in Evergreen Harbor, and there's actually 15 lots in total. It appeared there was less than that initially, but we'll get to that later. So yeah, you can see a slow pan across this district, and this is in the industrial state, which I'm pretty sure at this point I've just called the polluted state, but yeah, it's called the industrial state, and SimGuru George talked about a very interesting eco-footprint mechanic where certain objects, even wallpaper, can affect your eco-footprint, and it'll tell you in build mode whether it contributes towards a green eco-footprint or industrial. But don't worry, you can actually disable this feature if you're not comfortable with it, because there is a new option in the options menu when you go under gameplay, where you can check off build mode items grant gameplay effects. So if the box is not checked, then you don't need to worry about it. I'm pretty sure this is also supposed to disable the fire resistance feature, but yeah, that's another interesting thing we'll get to a bit later. But if you do want to use this feature, there thankfully is an eco footprint meter, so you can easily check just where on the scale your lot is. So you can see it says industrial, the cogs of industry are churning. By the way, this object right here that I spotted in the gameplay trailer except in a different color, it's an atmospheric condenser, and it looks like because it does have an industrial eco footprint, it's the industrial opposite of the dew collector. And it's not just the fact of having certain objects in your house to make your eco footprint go one way or the other. It's also from doing certain actions, because particularly using a rocket ship to go into space, that will also put your eco footprint towards the industrial side. Also, we finally know what's going on with those paper bags that Sims are wearing on their heads, which kids can actually wear too, not just adults. And it's part of a neighborhood action plan policy called We Wear Bags. So yeah, that is something you can experiment with if you want to. Next, they went into Create a Sim. I'm pretty sure they did not show every single item, but they showed quite a bit of the feminine fashion and some of the masculine, and thankfully, they did show off some new things for kids and toddlers. I don't want to spend too much time on Create a Sim because I do want to focus more on new gameplay details in this video, and I'm sure I'll do a full cast overview when I actually have the pack, but for now, yeah, I have good first impressions of these clothes, and as someone who does use Create a Sim a lot, I think I will get good mileage out of this content. Oh, but I almost forgot to mention, it seems like we're actually getting a decent amount of stuff in terms of traits and aspirations, because we're getting 4 new traits and 2 new aspirations. The traits are Maker, where Sims basically really enjoy crafting, so they'll love using the Fabricator, the Candle Making Station, the Juice Fizzer, and also the Woodworking Table from base game. And they don't receive negative effects from crafting or repair failures. And then there's the Green Fiend, which basically sounds a lot like the eco-friendly trait from The Sims 3, which is, I've been wanting back, so yes, finally getting that, where Sims are at their happiest when they are using green energy and just overall being eco-friendly. Another one is Recycle Disciple, where they are really into recycling and want to make sure that your home does not become a landfill. And lastly, there's Freegan, where the Sims reject consumerism and prefer to reduce wasteful spending by any means, and they enjoy dumpster diving, and actually have the best luck at finding the highest quality treasures in there, and they may become tense or uncomfortable if they spend too much time earning or spending simoleons. As for the aspirations, we have Eco Innovator, which ties into the neighborhood action plans, and they want to build a better, greener community, and they also want to sell excess power through the new billing system, and completing the aspiration gives you powerful socials to shun someone or promote someone as a cool sim. And then there's the Maker aspiration, which ties into all the new crafting stuff in this pack, as well as the civil designer career, and if you complete this aspiration, then you get discounts on crafting materials. After Create a Sim, they revealed a new update for console where you will be able to have this controls overlay display, and when you are playing, you can see on the right hand side there's all of those buttons that remind you, okay, you can press that button to do that action, which I think will be very handy, so that's cool. It's not the flashiest upgrade ever, as Singer George said, but still, I think this is going to be a pretty welcome one for people playing on those systems. Next up, they showed the world map for Evergreen Harbor, and we can see, yes, there are the 3 districts there: Port Promise, Conifer Station, and Grimm's Quarry. And it may seem like there's only 10 or 11 lots, but in fact, there's a total of 15 if you count the new apartment lots that are coming. Because we have 1 apartment lot over in Conifer Station, and there's also one over in Grimm's Quarry, and each of these apartment buildings have 2 units inside of them. So in total, 4 apartment lots. So yeah, we got a total of 15 lots, which I think is the most we have gotten in The Sims 4 in a world for quite a while, because Sulani, I think, is 14, and Brightchester was 13, so just a little bit more than usual, which is nice, especially considering the community spaces. You might want to have more than one of them in Evergreen Harbor at a time. But about the apartments in Evergreen Harbor, they do work a little bit differently, because you do not need city living for these. You can just have eco lifestyle and they will work fine. And they are slightly more customizable with the shells, because depending on the state that your neighborhood is in with the eco footprint, then it will look a bit different, but you're still restricted with the outside walls and such. But you don't have the apartments in high-rises this time around. They are more suburban-like apartments. Also, while living in these apartments, you do not have the landlord NPC or the noisy neighbor situations. But going back to the world map, you may have noticed there are some visual animations on there that help tell you what state your current district is in. So you can see that Port Promise is industrial, Grimm's Quarry is green, and Conifer Station is neutral. And these do not just apply to Evergreen Harbor. You can see these changes on all the world maps that have the eco gameplay. So you won't see this in Strangerville or the vacation destinations, but yeah, you can see there is also new map tags for Willow Creek, because they also went back to all of the pre-city living worlds and gave those tags and descriptions, which is awesome. I remember years ago I actually made a My Sims 4 wishlist episode specifically about doing this sort of thing, so I'm not taking credit for this, but it is really cool to see one of my more minor requests fulfilled there. It's just a nice thing to have for consistency's sake, in my opinion. And you can see there is eco footprint mode near the world name in the world map, so you can have an even more obvious outline of the states that all your districts are in. So you have yellow for industrial, gray for neutral, and green for, well, green. And yes, it does also work with the other worlds. So in a second, yes, you can see that there is a green eco footprint for Magnolia Blossom Park, while all the other districts in George's game are neutral. Also, here's a quick peek at the world icon for Evergreen Harbor. Didn't really get a good shot of it being animated, but there it is. Yeah, the Watcher is shining down on Evergreen Harbor, so that's pretty nice. I also spotted some new lot traits that are coming with this pack. So there's Natural Well, Landfill Lot, and Reduce and Recycle. There might be more, but I don't know. Those are just the 3 that I saw, and I don't know exactly what they do. But yeah, I just thought I'd point that out. After that, we hopped back to live mode, and Nox showed up minus clothes. So they gave some context to the situation, because one of the neighborhood action plans that you can vote on is free love, And that means that Sims can just freely be romantically involved with anyone they want in the neighborhood and not be penalized at all for it. And there's actually the board right out there, and you can check the latest NAP gossip, because NAP is basically Neighborhood Action Plan for short, which I find pretty humorous. But yeah, you can also vote at the board, and if you just so happen to have 10 community influence points with your current sim, then you can vote to repeal as well. So there is this whole influence point system where you can get points by doing certain actions. So in the case of free love, you can get points by doing romantic actions, but there are other things you can do too, because it was also mentioned that if you defeat the mother plant from Strangerville, that can also net you quite a few influence points. Another example I remember being listed is if you join a university organization with Discovery University. So it's intriguing, and I'm looking forward to seeing just how that all plays out with my gameplay. Another thing with these neighborhood action policies is that you can only vote on them in your home neighborhood. So you can't just live in Evergreen Harbor somewhere and then hop over to Oasis Springs and be like, oh, free love for everybody in the neighborhood by the Rattlesnake Juice Bar or something like that. No, you can only do that in your own home neighborhood, which I think makes a lot of sense. It's more realistic that way. But another thing that's going on is that we have these neighborhood personalities. So you can see that Nox is an eco master, and he basically replaces the welcome wagon in this district. It seems like it is a different sim per district because we saw Bess do kind of a similar thing in a different neighborhood, but she has a different personality type from Nox. But these neighborhood personalities do help guide you through this new eco gameplay. So you can see it says here, welcome to Evergreen Harbor, my name's Nox, and not to toot my own horn, but people regard me as a bit of an eco-master around these parts, and I utterly love talking about living the eco lifestyle. Did you know that you can vote on neighborhood action plans? They're called NAPs for short. If you want to help get our neighborhood to a better eco footprint, there are a lot of great options you can help me in supporting. Do it for the trees, green initiatives, eco-friendly appliances, clean energy production. Voting is easy. You can vote at either a public voting board or even at your own mailbox. No excuses to dodge voting. Just make sure you have enough influence points. I've given you a few to get started. Voting ends on Monday at 6 p.m. and check the Simology panel for more info. Of course, you don't have to vote on those three things that Nox is talking about. He's just showing his personal bias there. And then he will go and show you, if you follow where he runs, it shows you where the community board is, in case you didn't already know. So now I can show you a few different examples of neighborhood action plans. So there is one called Foodies Unite, where you can gain influence points by cooking. Then there's power conservation, which I find pretty interesting because you just overall have to use less power, and you actually are asked to go one day a week without using any power at all. And if you fail at this, then you'll actually get a fine each day. Then there's self-sufficiency, which focuses on giving yourself your own supplies through things like fishing, gardening, and handiness. There's also support the performing arts, where you can gain influence by not only sharing the melodies of instruments, but also by expressing other forms of the performing arts. And professionals working in entertainment-related careers also enjoy increased pay with this policy being active. And one last example is tech support. So you can gain influence through programming, rocket science, and some other methods. And you also get bonuses if you're in tech-related jobs such as astronauts, tech gurus, scientists, freelance programmers, and civil designers. We also get to see a little bit of a sneak peek at what the Modern Development Action Plan is like when you use it in the Conifer Station District. So now the apartment buildings look a lot more modern than they did before, and the walkways also have a different design, but the rest of the neighborhood has not changed yet. So it is supposed to progressively change over the course of the week, because they are supposed to also have things like the train station changing up so it is more modern, so that there is a park that you can actually take those stairs up to instead of just all the plants and the railroad tracks there. He ended up saying, oh, maybe it'll be on a Friday, so I'm guessing it is divided into different segments, and then different segments modernize at random. But I think this is very interesting, and I like the realism of this, where it's not all at once, though it seems like when a segment changes, it blips and it looks a little awkward. But otherwise, yeah, I do like that it's not just the whole place suddenly popping at the same time. It's a more gradual, realistic change. Then we head over to the Tinker household, where we get to see some of the crafting stuff in action, as well as the dumpster, which is a good way to get some materials for crafting as well. He also did end up explaining one of the new lot traits, which is reduce and recycle, and this means that when this lot trait is equipped, then your house no longer has bottomless garbage cans. You do have to actually sort out your recyclables and your compostables, and then you can use that for crafting. You're also going to have a lot more trash generating on your lot, and you do have to plan what you're going to do with all the trash, because the garbage man will only come once a week to your lot. So I think this actually sounds like a pretty fun lot trait to use. It's not just, oh, here's a minor boost to a skill or an emotion. There's some actual gameplay going on here. So with candle making, there are 4 different shapes that you can make your candles into, and children can actually partake in this, not just adults, so that's really cool. I definitely want to have some of my kids try that out. And you do have to purchase ingredients in order to make the candles. And candle making is actually lumped in with the fabrication skill. I thought it was going to be an individual skill, but nope, it is also the same skill that you can build by also using the fabrication machine. The candles give off different scents that can contribute to different emotions, and candles do melt over time. However, if you want the candles to never melt, then there's a cheat to set it so that it can be in a certain state the whole time. Even though soy wax is a harvestable that you can use towards candle making, if you have seasons, you can also now harvest wax from the beekeeping box, so I think that is a really cool tie-in there. Another thing they showed off is the new community space venue, which is pretty special in its functionality because it has 4 different lot types tied into one: the community space, community garden, marketplace, and makerspace. And you use the community board to vote on what lot type it is supposed to be. But just because you voted on it to be a certain lot doesn't mean it's going to turn that way, because you need the other Sims to vote and the majority wins. So yeah, I think this is a pretty interesting mechanic here. And you can edit what each space looks like when you're in build mode. It's just that you have to actually vote on that lot type so it actually appears in live mode. So that should really make for some interesting gallery creations. Next they go to Grimm's Quarry and they show off the juice fizzing, which is its own individual skill. And there are different ingredients that you can use, including fruit, and not just the base game fruit, but also fruit from any pack at all. So yeah, should be interesting making some fizzy avocado juice, I guess. And you can also use flowers and herbs in the case of kombucha. It's also worth mentioning that when you max out the juice fizzing skill, you will get a reward trait, which is aficionado. Aficionados become focused while creating better products from the juice fizzer, as well as recovering from becoming overbucha'd faster. So there we go. It looks like we can finally get juiced in The Sims 4. Singuru George also mentioned the new hydroponic planter that waters your plants automatically, and that is something that you unlock through the civil designer career and make it with the fabricator. Singuru Popcorn also went into detail on the vertical gardens that you can have, so you can grow the bush type plants on them, and you can fertilize them more often and just help you save on some space. But there is one more thing, which we saw through a GIF before. We can grow cruelty-free meat, and there's some interesting things about this. We can name the meat, and if you leave the meat out too long, it expires but turns into jerky, And you can also get some very high quality Mew cubes if this catches on fire. Wow, a reason to actually start a fire other than to kill your Sims. Quite interesting. And one other small detail with this meat wall is if your Sim has the vegetarian trait from City Living or the squeamish trait from Outdoor Treats, they will not feel comfortable around it. With fabricating, SimGuru George did show off a bunch of different objects that you can make, and a new bike is one of those things. And it is interesting, you can even choose the color of them through the dye that you use as you're creating the object. When it comes to the upcycling machine, almost anything in the game can be put in there, and once it goes through this machine, then out come bits and pieces, and you can use those towards fabrication. And you can check how many bits and pieces you have in the household funds when you hover over it in the bottom left corner. I almost said bottom right corner. No, bottom left. Though there's actually 3 things in total on display. There's the simoleons, and then I think the second thing is for fuel, and then the last is for bits and pieces. And one last miscellaneous sort of thing is when it comes to the solar panels, you can actually have solar panels that go flat on the roof instead of just the ones that stand on the ground. And they do try to fit your roof most of the time. Of course, there are some impossible shapes that realistically don't make sense for solar panels to be on. But in that case, you can also use a solar roof that generates some power for you. So overall, the crafting section of this pack does sound really fun, so I am looking forward to diving into that more. So now I've discussed pretty much all the new things in terms of the gameplay in Eco Lifestyle, but oh my goodness, the free updates that we're getting alongside this feels like this is what we should have had back in February for the 20th anniversary of the franchise. So Repo Men are being patched into the base game because they were only available with the loans from Discover University. So make sure you pay your bills, otherwise they may come by a couple of days later and steal your stuff. We already knew we were getting ladders, and now we can actually place windows and doors in a more free way by holding down Alt like we can with a lot of objects. And there is a new off-the-grid sort in build mode, so it's easier to find the off-the-grid compatible stuff. There's also possible to collect water from various sources to use with off-the-grid, from swimmable oceans, to fishing spots, to snow piles if you have seasons. And also, if you're using the dew collector from Eco Lifestyle, you will collect dew faster if it's raining. There's also a bills update, so you know exactly how much you are spending on water and electricity. And there's also an inventory overhaul where you can actually favorite things and you can filter by a whole bunch of different stuff so you can find your collectibles a lot more easily. And there's also updated map tags for the pre-City Living worlds, because the older worlds in the game don't have any descriptions when you hover over their neighborhoods, unlike the much newer ones. And, well, you probably noticed by now, but there's firefighters! Gosh dang, finally! I've been asking for firefighters and making jokes about wanting firefighters more than other things for years, and yeah, here they are! And that's where the fire resistance mechanic also comes in, because then you actually do have different objects that have better fire resistance. And yeah, it's an interesting little thing to just make a little bit more depth for the whole fire aspect. So that's pretty much it for my summary of the live stream. I apologize if I missed anything too important. I know there was the freelance crafter career, but it basically works like the other freelance careers, except it uses both the choose fizzing skill and the fabrication. But yeah, overall, this stream really changed my mind about this pack. I mean, I still gotta play it to really know for sure if it's gonna be one of my favorites, but it does look like it is more worthy of an expansion pack than it initially looked by the trailers and the blog posts. And the free update looks pretty cool as well, because I've been saying for a while, we need more updates to the base game, not just piling packs on top of The Sims 4. And it looks like there's going to be some really decent stuff in there too, so even if you're not getting the pack, there's still stuff to look forward to come June 2nd, when the patch is supposed to release. But even if you did manage to watch this video, which is becoming almost as long as one of my Let's Play episodes at this point, I still recommend checking out the live stream, because then you can watch all the gameplay footage in full without my voice talking over it, and without all the cuts, because it was a 2.5 hour live stream, so there was no way I could include every single bit of it. But this pack will be out very soon anyways, so then once I have my hands on the pack, I can make more comprehensive reviews on certain sections of the game, like the world, and create a sim, and stuff like that. And that wraps up another Sims info and thoughts video. Boy, that one took a long time. These live stream breakdowns always take a long time, but it felt like with this particular one, it was more stressful because there was just way more stuff dumped on us for the first time through this live stream. So I really hope this video helped at least some of you out. And feel free to let me know in the comment section below what you think now of eco lifestyle, because it seems like just from looking at Twitter, a lot more people are warming up to this pack. But anyways, be sure to subscribe if you want to keep up with my latest content from The Sims, Paralive, Sonic the Hedgehog, and more. So I will talk to you all later, and have a great day. Thanks for watching!